the only way to start your day.
It's the Mwananchi budget. That's what we're talking about today. And to help steer that conversation in the hot seat today, as well as folks who are in the Baraza, is Ruth Kenyanjui, who's the economic and governance expert, and she joins us this morning. Ruth, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Karibu sana. We're going to get into things this morning. Part of our audience is here. More of them continue to arrive. And then for us to have this conversation. So thank you, all of you who've joined us this morning. And we'll get to know you a little bit more as we get into the conversation. But we're glad that you were able to do this with us today. Why don't we do the proverb? We can do that with Ruth for a minute.
Yes.
And then Ruth can tell us what she thinks about this proverb.
Yes, so Ruth, our proverb today comes from Eritrea. So just a few facts about Eritrea. They fought with Ethiopia for 30 years for them to gain independence in 1993. And they've never had a constitution since 1997. There is no formal constitution in the country. But one thing that stands out in the country as well, just outside Asmara, which is the capital, they have what they call a tank graveyard as a constant reminder of the fight, the 30 years for them to gain independence. But let's go to the proverb. A camel keeps on marching while the dogs keep on barking. How would you interpret it?
Wow. I feel like things that needs to be done still will be done, and especially with the right focus, because noise will always be there. So I think it's good to focus on the things that needs focus, but also to ignore the barking that will always come with a feeling like you do not have to continue, but you continue anyway. Yeah.
You continue anyway. Well, okay. This is interesting because the things that we talk about while we're making sure that we are having impactful conversations may not impact at the moment when you're speaking, but that you continue to talk about them, and in the long run is when then you'll be able to probably harvest some good. But if you keep quiet, it's akin to uprooting a shoot that has not had the opportunity to mature once you put the seed in the ground. But that what conversation does, and pushing people towards action and being involved, is that you keep the conversation going. And that's one of the things that we're going to do this morning. And why do I say that? Because the budget process every year starts on the 30th of August. The 30th of August, if it happens to fall on a weekend, then we're going to start on Monday. But the 30th of August, Treasury issues the budget circular and guidelines. All right, so we're just going through some things here. By February 15th, the following year, the budget policy statement is submitted to Parliament. So Parliament, just after the new year and maybe a couple of weeks, is aware that Treasury has been crunching the numbers, and they've been doing, and all the technocrats have been sitting and saying, okay, based on what has been submitted to us by the various departments of government, we are now then going to put together a skeleton budget, really. And so that's what they've done. So by the 30th of April, which was just about a week ago, the final budget estimates are submitted to Parliament. So they've had this documentation for a while, right? Out of that is birthed what we all now suddenly thought it only appeared 2 years ago, but it's been there every time there's been a budget, the finance bill, which is essentially what gives life to the budget. The finance bill then takes all these numbers that have been crunched over time, puts it into this bill, which says this is how the government is going to spend and make money in the next financial year. Now, after that, if it comes out into the public, it goes through the throes of public participation. It is then assented to, and then it becomes an act. It becomes an act, essentially, then it becomes law, and that is what governs how the country will spend, appropriate, and then account for its money in the next financial year. Now, by June, the budget speech is read, and the finance bill is debated, and then July 1st, the new financial year begins and implementation starts. So, right now, if you want to have a conversation about what is going to go into the budget, you're about 6 months too late. All right? The finance bill, for all intents and purposes, more or less is out. Starting to see some things. But that what we are pushing for by having a conversation like this is to encourage Kenyans to be part of the process from the time the bell rings on the 30th of August. Now, we're going to have a conversation today because we're saying, what would Mwananchi be asking that the country spends its money on? And how should this money be appropriated? How should it be spent? So that when we talk about public participation, that is exactly what we are saying, that you need to be involved in the process upon which it's your money anyway. The Treasury, with a small group of people, have decided how your money is going to be spent, where you will borrow from, how you will repay, and then what is going to be appropriated to different sectors. So in our push to say that public participation must not be a dream, but it must be a reality, that is why we have the conversations that we do. So, are we going to be able to influence the numbers that went into the budget? Probably not. Can you influence the debate that will happen over the Finance Bill 2026? 100%. So let's start off with you, Ruth. That we see certain things already starting to come out in terms of what will then go to Parliament. How can we actually look at these numbers and say that the forecast for 2026 maybe looks a little bit better in terms of the economy for the country?
Thank you so much for that. And I like where you've come from, because the budgeting process in this country will never be the same again since 2024. Right now, we have a citizen that is very self-aware. They are more scrutinous to what is going on. They are also pushing for accountability from the leaders. And right now, it's not the quiet process that used to be there actually in the last regimes. If we look, for example, at what was tabled yesterday in Parliament, maybe, and the fact maybe we are coming also from the Labor Day celebration, which is really incorporates most of the common working Kenyan, and even whatever was tabled yesterday in Parliament. You can see quietly where the government is coming from. And from where I sit, I could tell they're trying to broaden, of course, and broaden tax base and still increase the revenue, which has been happening for a very long time. So I'm really keen to see how different that is going to happen, because targets, of course, have been so high, meaning that if we haven't been attaining that before, also it's still time to rethink on how we're going to push that. Secondly, of course, there are a bit of introductories that are coming on board. So how is that going to happen, especially because there's a lot of some sectors you can tell they are really targeted, especially the technological kind of aspect and digital platforms that are targeted. But how is that going to happen so that they can be onboarded, and how are they going to differentiate from what happened last year in 2024. So I'm really keen to see that. But that not all outstanding, because it's coming from a government perspective, and of course they expect the mwananchi to react. What, as a common mwananchi, what would they also be looking at, or what can they also focus on, so that they ensure that they balance this conversation, especially when the bill is still going on.
Right.
And the first thing is, of course, ensuring that the cost of living for Kenyan is managed. Because just previously, like 2 weeks ago, fuel prices went up. If fuel prices went up and immediately the president was able to bring it down 10 shilling, I believe it can still go down. So there's that option, because that I think fuel prices are the ones that normally push the cost of living, because the logistical cost and the pushing of goods and services in the market becomes very expensive. And we are doing that at a time when the weather conditions are really favorable. We can't say that the prices of common goods and services are high. So there's a consideration and a place that the government should start rethinking even as the bill goes. I know it was presented, but even as it goes through, because KRA also has to tone in a way that is also doesn't seem predatory, especially in the more scrutiny that they're talking about, and ensuring that more is not leaking, there's no more leaks. The second thing is, of course, availability of jobs, because we have almost 40% of our population is the young people. As they push the digital taxes, how are they also bringing on board the young people to ensure they are also within the job brackets? So that it's a give and give. It has to give and give. And right now, we don't want to sit here and look like the citizens are fighting with the government. No, the government should now come with collaboratory kind of efforts to ensure mwananchi and government are working together. We are in a pre-election year, and all input, actually, all the hands have to be on the deck, and the inputs of common wananchi, very important. And as you've said, we are capable of influencing this conversation. So there's job availability, stable conditions of doing business and ease of doing business in Kenya is still considered very high.
Yes.
Our taxes are very high. We cannot go higher than that. Give people time and ensure that the main sectors like agriculture and, they're being taken care of. So with all that in mind, if we can bring all that together and balance in a way of win-win, no one is fighting the government, and also the government should not be seen that it's fighting its people. That is what is going to be an anchor for economic prosperity for this country.
Okay.
When you talk about budget making process or the finance bill that would come there, Kenyans look at the taxman as a person who's always taking. He's always taking, but we have nothing to show. And unfortunately, that also goes for the government of Kenya, because the bill originates from the government, from treasury, So here we're looking at a government that would come, bringing in your payslip. If you are online, it would come to your TikTok, YouTube money, But at the end of the day, there is nowhere where you'll say, if I go to hospital, I've had good services. If I'm taking my kids to school, despite paying so much taxes, my kids are enjoying good services. So here then, how can we have a discussion where we're saying, as much as we're giving so much taxes, we are funding this bill, we have something that we are seeing jobs, we are seeing manufacturing is there. That if I'm a farmer in Olkalau, I'm sure that my produce will end up in the market, or the government is enabling me through manufacturing to value add on my product, so that if they come back next year, I have much more to give and much more that I remain with. Today, the taxman, government of Kenya, is seen as an individual who does not care whether they tax me to a pulp. I'm down on my knees. They will still take, but I have nothing on my end.
Looking into some of these points, let's look at some of the points of the Finance Bill 2026.
Yes.
And then it'll be interesting to hear from folks, what do you actually feel the country should be spending its money on today? Because it's already been established over time, whether we look at what the economic experts tell us, that Kenya doesn't have a revenue problem. If you want to look for the money, you'll find it. Right?
Yeah.
Kenya has an expenditure problem, and that expenditure problem is in the hands of a few. But let's look at some of the details of the Finance Bill 2026. Some key points here for us to be aware of what it says, and then perhaps what you would like it to say, because that's what all public participation is about. We're looking at earlier tax filing returns. Annual income tax returns would move from the 30th of June to the 30th of April. So it's taking 2 months. So you're going to start filing returns much earlier. Nil returns would be due by the 31st of January. So we see a different date there. There's going to be higher rental income tax. So for folks who earn some money on rentals, it's going to go from 7.5% to 10% that you're giving to the government. All right? The digital economy and crypto taxation. New taxation is targeting cryptocurrency and virtual assets, online payment platforms, digital financial services, card transaction fees. That money might be now more useful under the mattress, but okay. New taxes and excise duties. There will be a tax on imported second-hand clothes, mitumba, 5% tax. 1.5% withholding tax on scrap metal sales, 20% withholding tax on gambling winnings for those who pata-potea, 20%. Excise duty on luxury vintage vehicles. So if you're buying that Aston Martin, I don't know, there'll be excise duty on that. New excise taxes on fruit juices and some telecom products. The bill proposes VAT exemptions for electric buses and bicycles. We're looking towards the climate. That will make you happy, Dennis. Solar and lithium batteries, medical products like dialyzers, animal feed and pharmaceutical raw materials. There will be VAT on some digital payment and fintech services. Now, the bill is also suggesting stronger KRA enforcement powers. KRA would have wider powers to challenge tax avoidance schemes. It would also have wider powers to issue assessments without waiting for taxpayer filings, and also recover VAT on unsold goods after tax status changes. And we're just going to go through two more of those. Amnesty for some tax liabilities up to the 31st of December 2025. Amnesty period runs until December 2026. Treasury CS John Badi has said the government aims to increase revenue mainly through better compliance, reducing exemptions, broadening the tax base. and introducing mainly new headline tax rates. This is what we are being told essentially will come, and we'll see the details, of course, as that is made public, and in some cases already is public. We'd like to hear from you. In terms of what you hear already, this is what is going into it. Do we have an opportunity to maybe sway in public participation? So we're told. We're already seeing the comments this morning. Folks are saying, well, it doesn't really matter if you participate. If it's going to go through, it's going to go through. Is that the feeling across board? And what do you feel the country should be spending money on, and how should that work? Over to you, Dennis.
Yeah, so but we just want to hear your views on the things that Ndu has just raised, as well as which are some of the priority areas that we want to see at the government invest more in. So just take the microphone and go ahead. Yes. Introduce yourself and then go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Chris Paze, and I believe we are having a very candid conversation, especially when it comes to the nation, because at the end of the day, the finance bill determines where we head. And I believe also Ndu has forgotten the fact that on the public-private partnerships, there is no taxation on their services and the products they are bringing on board. On incorporation, we are also talking about from 37.5 coming down to around 30%. And when you look at some of those proposals, they don't seem like they are proposals which have been crafted here. Yes.
Well, they crafted on the moon? What?
Because, one, we are talking about the public-private partnerships. Most of them are not run by Kenyans. Okay? When you talk about the foreigners who are starting businesses here, most of them are not Kenyans. You talked about the vintage vehicles. Most of these vintage vehicles, at the end of the day, they are mostly from the East. And something else, actually, we're also supposed to talk about is things to do with electric buses and all that kind of stuff. These are things, straight away, they come from China. Did you see some of these raft of proposals purely favor a particular kind of region?
So, as Monanchi, in this bill, right, that will be ending up to Parliament, what would be your proposal in terms of, say, electric buses and electric bikes that are coming into the country? What would be your proposal? Are we seeing Wananchi pushing more on assembly farms to happen in Kenya, other than importing ready-made buses? When you talk about PPPs in the country, are you also speaking in terms of how can we include local investors into these conversations so that our local individuals who want to invest into these areas as well have a seat at the table?
You are perfect, actually. You have not actually asked a question. I believe, actually, it's exactly what should be done. We need actually to make sure, like, for example, if I were the one to look at some of the proposals, there are some proposals, actually, I will not come up with, especially when it comes to the public-private partnerships. If you give them free, some of the products for free, like if they're bringing products and services from outside the country and they have no VAT, yet actually you are widening the tax base. At the end of the day, it means the people, while we know actually 84% of the economy is MSME, and we are trying as much as we can to make sure that they are VAT compliant. It means one way or the other, you are protecting a set of people, while the 84%, you are bringing them to paying VAT. While in actual sense, there is another person there, you are giving some VAT credits, because actually if they're getting these products free of charge, one way or the other, you are protecting them. Now, I would actually want to have a nuanced conversation, because at the end of the day, there are incentives. We have to agree one way or the other. The proposals, actually, some of them are very good. One way or the other, by extending the tax amnesty to December 31st, that's good, especially for the ule mwananchi wakaida, because at the end of the day, if you have a VAT, some which actually is still actually remaining, you have to pay up to December 31st, and we need to understand as much as we are bringing Kenyans on board, or rather embodying them on VAT, they are nothing like waivers when it comes to principal tax. Once you sell your goods on VAT, at the end of the day, you are supposed to pay. So one way or the other, I would be so happy beyond actually just the proposals going through. There is need for a lot of civic education so that at the end of the day, people who will actually find themselves in this kind of catch-22, they already understand what you're supposed to do with VAT.
All right, all right. Let's hear someone else.
Thank you. My name is Amai Asbon, and I'm glad to be here again. And for me, what I can start with, sometimes I do fail to understand if Kenya has an active constitution that is governing Kenya.
Why would you say that?
I'm saying that because most of the things that are happening in our country, Kenya, most of them, sometimes they don't fall under the constitution that it is governing Kenya. Sometimes you do sleep, you wake up, you find this and this has been passed. You don't know who was consulted. Like for us in the sector of Boda, some of the bills, you just find them. They have just been passed. Some of the things have just been passed, and we don't know. So sometimes we do wonder, does Kenya have an active constitution that is governing Kenya? Because if it is an active constitution, what does it say when a proposal has come? When something has to be amended, what does the constitution say? So I believe now, like the country Kenya, it's like it is being running by few individuals to their benefit. They don't consider even the common mwananchi. For instance, there are so many things, like this proposal that has just come. There is another one that came the other time, and we spoke over it, and they have twisted it. They have come with another one. So for me, what I will wish so much to be done. Number one, it is let the mwananchi to be given the priority to participate also in this proposal, because even the members of parliament that we thought they are our voice, they are not speaking anything. Most of them they are being put into their somebody's pocket. They are working in that pocket. So you find as mwananchi, we are struggling. We are trying to say, and the people we thought that they will help us, they are not doing anything. So on my side, I will wish, for instance, there is this electric things. Kenya got independence 1963. You can't tell me that Kenya is not in a position to produce a complete motorbike here. You can't tell me that.
In terms of assembly?
Yes, in terms of assembly. Yes.
Putting the parts together from the beginning, or bringing the parts and then assembling here? Which one?
Even all of them. Kenya can manufacture the parts. They can assemble it here. They can do anything here. We have a company here that is producing chuma zinaitwaje kwa Kiingereza? Steel. Metro.
Yeah.
You see, we have a company here that is Doshi, Ama whichever company. Let me not mention the company. Yeah. Yes. We have companies here that are producing these materials. And we have people. But why is it we are prioritizing people from outside? Everything, the economy of the country is being run by people from outside. So you are making us to be like slaves. It's like we have never received independence. So what I will say, let us be given priority. This country has got an active constitution, which was ambayo ilikuwa amended 2010, and I know if we follow this constitution, there is no one in Kenya that is above the constitution.
I think just show a raise of hands to just know when you talk about public participation.
Yes.
We are 10 people in this room.
Yes.
Who attended any of the public participation exercises?
Actually,
show of hands. Show of hands.
Did you attend? Okay.
So that's the statistic that you're using in the room as we speak right now.
Let's use this as a sample size.
As a sample size.
20%. 20%, and can you extrapolate that to the rest of the country?
Yeah.
Folks who are actually participating actively in making sure their voice is heard when it comes to these things. 20%, we go with that.
So okay. if that's the poll that you're taking,
but
then
in urban areas, actually,
in urban areas,
in urban areas, because one would assume in urban areas is where people get this information. So if you go to the rural areas, it's a different story altogether, right? So as you continue, right?
Yes.
Do we, as Wananchi, public participation in finance bill, What's your feeling on the same? Do you feel like first of all, even if it's happening, where it is happening, who's coming with it? Or is it just part of the constitution to tick the box?
The reason is why I'm saying there is a day we were called for public participation. But these people, they are very tricky. We were supposed to start at 4. But it came to start, it was at Daystar University. It was hosted by one of your royal media. And the participation began at 1 a.m. 1 a.m., something that was supposed to begin at 4 p.m. It is now beginning 1 a.m. Who is on the way? Ni nani yako hapo kweli hata kuparticipate? Na sahi hata akili ya watu zimechoka, watu wamelala. So they just want you formality, you be there, they see you be on TV, then wajue tu ya kwamba participation imefanyi. But in a real sense, kweli kabisa, if something wants to help like what you are doing, call us when we are fresh. Tumeamuka saa hii, hatuna stress, tuite tukuja hapa.
Mkunywa chai.
Yeah. Na najua nitakunywa nikitoka hapa. Sasa tukae chini, we talk. No. Sasa ukiniita saa 7 usiku nikuja nifanye public participation, will I be with my wife or I come and do participation?
Kuna shughuli zingine.
Niko na shughuli zingine bwana, and they need me also. You see, so kitu nilikuwa najaribu kusema ni ya kwamba we must come to a mutual understanding that all of us, the Kenya, all of us. Saa unaona we are being given, angalia kama the clothes that you are dressing here in Kenya. Most of these clothes are the people who are dead in the West, and you are being brought here. They wait people to die, and then they put it together, they bring to Kenya. And we have our textile companies here who can manufacture and who can produce a brand new cloth you can put it on. Why should you wait for Mzungu to die? Then they bring it here. Why should you wait for somebody to drive a car for over 10 years? The car, ungalia zile magari zinaua watu hapa Kenya. Most of the accidents that I'm seeing here in Kenya, they are the used cars. The cars zinakuja hapa mnafikiria ni mpya, zimepakwa rangi, zinakuja hapa, breki kumbe zilioza. Mtu ananunua anafikiria ni gari mpya, anaenda kwao Uchago, kumbe hakuna breki. And we have our companies here who can produce what? If the government can step in and support these people, they support our Kenyan people. This country could be far ahead. But because we are too much, enda Mombasa uone, kwa ports, most of the cars that are there, unasikia gari imetumika over 10 years, ingine sijui 8 years, ingine sijui, sasa kitu imeenda 10 years, my brother. Wewe hata itakusaidia nini? Hata mimi nilikataa siwezi nunua gari, na ngojea yangu itengenezwe hapa CMC.
Okay.
So lastly, if maybe before I hand over to my brother, we were brought these things. Kwa mfano, let me speak on behalf of border borders. We were brought this thing called an electric bike. The people who came to do piloting here, they are not Kenyans. They are Chinese. They don't know, they don't know when do we have electric, which part of Kenya has been fully covered by electric. They just bring the bike. That's the other day, there was a blackout. Do you know over 500 riders, they didn't have even a bread to put on the table? Because the piloting that took place before the initiating of this electric bike, they didn't do it well. They never covered. They don't know where. Sasa now, imefika masaa, stima imeenda blackout. Mtu alikuwa amezoea anakula boda, anakula bike. Stima imeenda blackout. Huyu mtu amekaa. Kuna wawili tu watatu wamekuwa initiated juzi tu wamekuwa wako wezi kwa siku mbili, because they don't have, what should they do? Walianza kupora watu tu siku mbili. Sasa stima wakati ilirudi ndio wakarudi kwa kazi zao. So maybe what I'm saying, let the government step in and make sure they incorporate the Kenyans themselves. Let us support our own. Mimi hata hizi mitumba nilisema zifungwe kabisa, hata zisikuje, hizo zikae kabisa, so that let us have our own. Let's support our own.
All right,
that will
let's
help
listen
us.
to someone else. Yeah. So this is the only person who was in public participation, eh? Okay. Yes.
I am not proud that I was in a public participation about any budget. I'm just mentioning I attended because I have attended a lot, including the ones for county governments. But unfortunately, this is a cosmetic exercise and our views do not matter. I have written memoranda almost every year to either the county government and to the national government on views and on points I think and priorities I think the government should take into consideration. I can tell you for a fact that most of these things are never taken into consideration, including the things we said in public participation. Mnaletewa choo na mliitisha mochari. Mnaletewa hospitali na mlitisha shule. They don't just follow these things. They don't even care. But I'm glad that the Honorable Atiende Omolo and I don't remember the name of the other MP are putting together a public participation bill that would probably bring a different meaning to what meaningful public participation is and what meets the threshold of a public participation, including the number of participants, the location, the timing, and how then do you collect the feedback from this public participation so that it is put into some meaningful use. So I'm glad we're taking steps into the right direction, but there's just a lot we need to change in this country. First of all, I don't think we need an annual finance bill.
Okay, why?
There are countries that do not have an annual finance bill and they're running just as fine, and they have better economies than this country. We don't need to review our taxes every other year, and by reviewing our taxes every other year, I think we create an unstable economic environment that does not bolster confidence on the part of investors. I think we should scrap the annual finance bill and probably have a finance bill that runs for 3 to 5 years. We can always revise this finance bill through a tax amendment bill or through an appropriations act yearly. That doesn't mean that we have to overhaul the entire finance bill. I think it's too hectic and it's too unpredictable for business. I also think we need to probably put a lot of effort on the revenue estimates. If I was to ask the cabinet secretary today, I'm just thinking and assuming that he's the best point man for economic questions regarding this country, on how much revenue is supposed to raise from minerals, he wouldn't tell me. He doesn't even know.
Please speak to him directly. FCPA John Badi.
FCPA John Badi, the expert, the enigma. How much money are we raising from minerals? Where is our mineral audit? We asked for the same when we were on the streets in 2024. How much money are we raising from soda ash? We understand there's a treaty in this country that binds the resources and the revenue that come from soda ash. We need to review that treaty. That treaty was drawn in Britain, not in Kenya. So how much money are we raising from soda ash? I believe it's in billions. But they make it look like soda ash is useless.
Just remind us your name. You didn't tell us your name.
My name is James Mulamba.
James,
yes.
What are you saying here is that when we talk about revenue, and that's where you say the attention needs to be paid.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that there's quite a lot of unmopped revenue
yes.
that is not taken into consideration that could actually solve quite a lot of problems that you then say we wouldn't need to borrow for?
Yes. I could be abducted for this, but I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
Oh, here we go.
We need to know how much money we are raising from from minerals. CS Joho. Mimi nakuuliza directly. Wacha nitumie Kiswahili, labda Kizungu itakuchanganya. Wewe na hiyo ministry yako ya minerals, ukae chini utufanyie mineral audit, utuambie Kenya mko na diamond, hii ndio mko nao, metric tons hivi, gold metric tons hivi, soda ash metric tons hivi. We've mined soda ash for more than 100 years. How much money are we raising from soda ash? Then after kutuambia this is the quantity, sasa tuwekee revenue, projected revenue. Price kwa soko ni hii. Nyinyi mmekubali hii, labda hamjakubali market rate, mmekubali hii after probably some concessions ama your agreement ya Britain. So how much money are we raising from gold, from soda ash? What are the royalties? What is the revenue? Tuanze hesabu hapo. Tuende sasa kwa ministry ingine, Ministry ya Agriculture, ikae chini tuambie revenue estimates zetu kutoka kwa Ministry ya Agriculture ni hizi. The next ministry, hadi ya mwisho. Because if you are not doing that, then we are working with blanket figures. We're just assuming we can raise 3.3 trillion. Na tumekea burden yote KRA. KRA inatoa wapi pesa yote? Ndio sasa wanaanza kutukimbiza hapa sarakasi left right. Shilingi 2 zangu za YouTube wanataka, shilingi 2 za TikTok tap nimetumiwa gifts wanataka. We need to be very realistic with these conversations. I also think we need to probably exempt the manufacturing sector and some of the services sector from taxation to spur manufacturing in this country. We're not manufacturing anything. Kama hata toothpick tuna import hata plastics. I'm surprised if we are not importing scrap metal. Because this country is importing almost everything, including fuel. Na tuko na fuel Turkana. Sasa nataka Ministry ya Energy, CSOP Wandai, wacha nikuambie directly. Hii sarakasi yako energy tumechoka. PE na mambo ya mafuta pia tumechoka. Sit down with your ministry. If you have to come up with a committee to discuss the Turkana oil, please do it. Tell us what is the exploration phase at this point. Tell us how much money the government needs to inject. If we need a heated pipeline from Turkana ya kupeleka mafuta to Mombasa, please do it. We need to know how much money we can raise from our fuel and our oil in Turkana. Na kama pia iwezi mtuambie iwezi, na watu watoe hizo vitu wameweka huko Turkana. Hatuwezi kuwa tunangoja kitu hatujui kama inaiva. Itaiva lini? It's been 4 years down the line. We've not made any shilling from the Turkana exploration. So what is really going on? Who's benefiting from these deals? Because hiyo mafuta imechimbwa for 4 years. Na imebebwa na lori for 4 years. So we need to address that. Ndio tuache hii perennial importation ya fuel. Na hii kwa hii mambo ya fuel pia nikitoka kwa fuel. We need to also source an alternative source for fuel. Wakifunga Strait of Hormuz, simchukue mafuta Oman. Oman is a country rich in petroleum, and they have refineries. They process petrol, and they sell at far better rates than the UAE. While we importing fuel from Saudi Arabia, as if we do not have other options.
They say
right now,
G2G.
They can renegotiate that G2G deal to factor in Oman as a country that produces fuel. Watuletee mafuta kutoka Oman. Mafuta hapa itapanda by 40 shillings na hiyo pia yao ya bei ya mafuta, while we have cheaper options left in the market. Na hii pia G2G deal has to be reconsidered because it is not a G2G deal. It's a G to private deal. A G2G deal means that the national oil of one country negotiates with the national oil of another country to probably import fuel and reticulate fuel in the importing country. But that is not what is happening in Kenya. Kenya has negotiated with the national oil of Saudi Arabia to import oil from Saudi Arabia. But when that oil gets into Kenya, it does not get to the national oil of Kenya. Ile petrol station yetu ya national oil. Sasa haijapewa proper infrastructure na funding to support a G2G deal. So hapa katikati wanaleta a stopgap. They take in oil marketing companies and private companies to receive this oil on behalf of the government. So ukianza kuinvoice, when you need payment as the national oil of Saudi Arabia, you invoice the private marketing companies, not the government of Kenya. So the private marketing companies, akina Shell, akina Total, akina Rubis, ingine inaitwa Gulf Energy, pay the national oil of Saudi Arabia. So that is not a G2G deal. In that effect, the government cannot effectively affect the price or set the price of fuel, and it cannot probably give us a cheaper alternative to what we already have. So we also need to renegotiate that deal. I don't know if I have more time. I have a few more points here.
Well, definitely, we will definitely come back to, because there are points that will then make it through as we talk about this. And just to give an opportunity to go round, and then of course we'll come back, of course then come back to Ruth, because some of the things that we're hearing is not conjured up in the minds of people. It's things that you can see. You see them every day. Whether we're talking about not just local assembly points, we're talking about manufacturing from here. If you look at a sector that has been spoken about, can you actually have those things made here, bring down the cost of certain things? Can you look at the full spectrum of what you actually have in the country that will then bring in revenue? And so now maybe you do not have to go to Peter and Paul to borrow. All right, let's hear from more folks as we go into it.
All right. Thank you. My name is Samson Dami Collins. I am a young Kenyan who is very active in politics in this country. I'm a civic educator, currently serving as the national spokesperson of Linda Mwananchi Youth League, to be very specific, the patriotic wing. But also as a young Kenyan who believe that the changes we, the young people, we've been looking for, we were right in 2024 in the streets. And the same finance bill we are talking today, it is what consumed over 200 comrades. So as a young person who believes that the changes that we've been advocating for, they can only become realistic with the young people, become good changes. I am an aspiring member of parliament at Georgia constituency. Now to the topic of discussion, for me, I just have a few concerns and comments about finance bill. We're talking about finance bill 2026. For me, I don't see anything new, rather than another move, another step to overtax Kenyans, to exalt Kenyans who are already overtaxed. And these are same taxes that are going to be used to fund a budgeted corruption which will come through the national budget. So I'm more concerned about if Kenyans are getting a value for their taxes. If they are getting what we call return on investment. We are investors in this government, we are paying taxes. Are we really getting a value for our taxes? Because I can only be motivated as a Kenyan to continue paying taxes if at all I'm getting value of those taxes. But when I look at the reality of the things, it's opposite of what I'm expecting. Because right now you have explained, you've even talked of the very main taxes. We're even talking of expanding the tax base, and looking for more taxes. But now the question is, what are these taxes out for? Just I think months ago, the control of budget, who is Nancy Gathungu, not Nancy Gathungu, Margaret Nyakango, she told the parliament that over 3 trillion out of 5.5 trillion, which is our external debt, is due within 1 year. And that means close to even over 80% of our national budget can be used to pay these debts because of pressure that will come from the international lenders and all that. But now when you also look at this other side, when you gave this president power, that is right in 2022, he has borrowed over 3.7 trillion. Now you will wonder, what are all these taxes for? And of course, I already have the answers. I'm more concerned about if we are getting a value for our money. Just a few months ago, we also told that 1.3 trillion was withdrawn from our national treasury through manual means, bypassing the accountability and the transparency channels. And there is no evidence whatsoever how that money was spent. 6.3 billion from e-citizen, 50 billion share rip-off, honestly. The Auditor General, she flagged a 50 billion share. This is where 50 billion was siphoned from share, was looted. And the response we get from the president is that some people are mad people. In fact, he's insulted us. 20 billion affordable housing loan. So as a Kenyan who really want to pay taxes, there's no motivation for all this. So this is simply, finance bill is 2026 is nothing different from what we've seen before. It's simply another step, another move to overtax Kenyans. We have talked of the clothing industry, the Mutumba industry being taxed, whereby 5% of the custom value of imported Mutumba goods, it will be treated as a taxable income. We are talking of the betting industry, whereby you find that those winning that you get from betting, 20% withholding tax will go to taxes. It's a mess. When sometimes you speak about these things, you just get mad. So I don't see anything new. And this is simply another move to overtax Kenyans, to go and finance. Budget and corruption will come through the national budget. Thank you.
Let's listen to the next person.
Nashukuru kuwa hapa. My name is Innocent Chanai. Na ningependa kuzungumzia hiyo finance bill ambayo imekuwa proposed. Jambo la kwanza, the finance bill becomes a burden when mwananchi is deprived of a right to enjoy the privilege of the finance bill. For example, kuna hii kitu inaitwa Linda Mama in hospitals. You see, the previous government brought it, and it was a relief for most women. And now it is no longer there. Now, you are taxing mwananchi, and also unamunyanganya kitu ambacho anapata from the tax. Now, vitu ambavyo vingepunguza uzito wa matumizi havifai kuchukuliwa kutoka kwa mwananchi. Now the government is stealing from taxes and also is stealing from what mwananchi is getting as a privilege from the tax itself. Now it is as if you are stealing from somebody who is investing in you. That's for example. So kama kwa mfano ukiongeza bei kwa vitu ambavyo ni vya ukulima, na Kenya tunategemea ukulima, instead kama fedha zote zimepelekwa kwa vitu vingine ambavyo amfai tena kurudisha tax kwa wakulima, kwa sababu wakulima wenyewe wanataka wapate hizo fedha, wapate mbolea kwa bei nafuu ili chakula kiwe. Now Kenya, our staple food ni mahindi. Mahindi ikipanda bei ama mbolea ikipanda bei, then we cannot be stable. So first of all, the government should look at things like food, then medical, alafu wakuje kwa education. Okay. Naona kwa education wanajaribu kidogo, but upande wa medical there is a problem. Last time tuliona kukiwa na issues na SHA na NHIF, even though SHA imejaribu kidogo, but why are they taking out Linda Mama and people are being born every now and then? Yes.
Those are pertinent questions. Yeah. And I think that's what then feeds directly into what a Mwananchi budget would look like. Our Spice Baraza will continue when we take a break. We're going to come back and then get some insights from Ruth and then from the rest of you as we continue to look into what would we like it to look like, essentially. We'll come back and discuss. Good morning, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.